By the autumn of 1892, the valley called them tree people, and they meant it as an insult.
Papa, why do they call us tree people? Is it because our house is a tree?
Let them mock. When the real cold comes, this tree will stand while their cabins groan and leak.
Look at those fools burrowed in a dead log. A good wind will splinter 'em to kindling.
A woman's laugh rose, light and cruel, as if a tree home was a sin against common sense. The northern sky turned to iron. By afternoon, the wind struck the ridge and the forest bent low.
Martha, help me plug these gaps. The storm's on us faster than I thought.
I'll pack the side seams. Emma, stay close to the fire and don't near the door.
Peppa, is the wind going to knock our tree down? I am scared.
He pressed moss into a crack near her bed. The draft still crept through. The worst seams were sealed, but not all. He stared at the draft-weeping seam, and a memory cut through the howl. His father's voice.
Giant trees. Our house is God already built, John. We just have to open the door.
Emma, that's the second cough. Are you sure you are warm enough?
It's only a tickle, Mama. The fire feels so nice.
A needle of wind sliced through a crack above Emma's head. John jammed a fistful of moss into the gap, his fingers stiff and white.
Martha, pack that side with clay. There's a pinhole letting winter in.
I've got it, Emma. Stay tucked. This tree fights the cold better than any cabin I've known.
John worked the moss deep into the seam, his breath hanging in the air. The last thin whistle of wind died.
Papa, is it all sealed now? The wind sounds so angry out there.
It's sealed, little one. The storm can rage all night. It won't find its way inside. Not tonight.
All night, the storm hurled itself against the tree. The curved walls shed the snow like water off a smooth stone.
A small fire, Martha. That's all it needs. The heartwood is 3 feet thick, better than any sawn plank.
The smoke rose in a thin rope and disappeared through a knothole near the ceiling. John followed it with his eyes.
Look at that. The tree breathes. It draws the smoke clean out. Papa was right. It was built for this.
Outside, the forest cracked and groaned under the snow's weight, but inside the glowing tree, the air stayed clear and warm.
John, Emma's cough is harsher. She's restless.
We'll keep her warm and the air clear. The medicine is gone, but this tree is a better nurse than any cabin in the valley.
By dawn, the world was white and silent. The storm had buried the settlement deeper than anyone remembered. Inside the tree, John fed the fire a stick no thicker than his thumb. "Too much," he muttered, watching the smoke, "and we choke."
Papa, I am still cold, and my throat hurts.
We'll keep you wrapped tight, little one. The fire's small, but this wood holds the heat better than any cabin.
Over the following days, the storm did not relent. Across the valley, the settlement's cabins began to groan and fail. One after another, roofs buckled under the weight. A chimney fire broke out, then another, sparks screaming into the frozen air. Eli Stern's roof caved in while he slept, pinning him beneath a beam. The cold poured in through the shattered timbers. Inside the tree, Emma's cough deepened into a wet, tearing sound. Martha knelt by the fire and closed her eyes.
Lord, she's only a child. Spare her this fever. She's all the light we have left.
John dug through the pack where the medicine had been. His fingers found nothing but an empty glass vial.
It's gone. All of it. Not a single drop left.
Outside, the world was a white tomb. Inside, the only sounds were Emma's labored breathing and the reluctant crackle of the fire.
Peppa, I am so cold. My chest hurts. Please hold me.
Arnold Tetch had been lost 3 days in the whiteout, his beard a mask of ice. Then the storm parted, and he saw a faint amber glow. He stumbled toward it, hands clawing at the snow. The bark was rough and real against his frozen cheek. The blizzard screamed, but the light held steady, a beacon in the endless white. He crawled the last yards on his belly. Inside the hollow, Gator's ears flattened. He let out a low, throaty growl. Emma whimpered in her fever.
Quiet, Gator. There's something scratching at the door.
John unbarred the heavy bark door. A knife of wind and snow slashed through the gap. He saw a man crumpled on the threshold, one hand raised in a frozen plea. His eyes were glazed.
Help, please. I am done for.
Martha, help me haul him in. He's near dead.
They pulled the stranger inside and slammed the door. The fire flickered wildly, but the cold had already slipped into the hollow. They laid the stranger beside the fire and rubbed his frost-bitten hands until the blue receded from his fingertips.
Can you hear us? You are safe now. We've got a fire.
My pack, lost in the drift, had medicine for the fever.
Emma's cough shredded the silence, a deep, wet rattle that made Martha's hands freeze over the stranger's chest.
Medicine in a lost pack. God, if only the storm would break.
2 hours later, the stranger shifted in sleep and his shoulder covered the smoke hole. The air began to thicken, slow as a held breath. Martha coughed first, a dry hack. Then John tasted the acrid change on his tongue.
The smoke's not drawing. Something's wrong.
The fire was still small, but the smoke had nowhere to go. It coiled against the timber, a gray shadow spreading over the family.
Papa, I can't. Breathe.
John lunged for the stranger, shoving his limp body away from the knothole. The dead weight barely shifted, and the smoke bit deeper.
Martha, cover Emma's face. Don't let her breathe this foul air.
Martha pressed her shawl over Emma's mouth, her own eyes streaming. The girl's chest heaved in shallow spasms.
The flue's blocked. If I don't find another way, we're dead in minutes.
Gator whined and pawed at the wall, frantic as if he knew the air was turning poison. John crawled along the wall, feeling for a draft. His father's words cut through the haze. "They're built already." He squinted upward through the stinging smoke. High overhead, a single needle of daylight pierced the dark, a second knothole sealed with frozen moss.
Up there. A second hole. It's our only chance.
He stretched, fingers scraping rough wood, but the hole was too high, still plugged with a knot of ice and bark.
I can't reach it. Emma's fading. Papa, help me.
John seized a long pine branch and thrust it upward. The frozen plug of moss shattered, and daylight burst through. Smoke poured from the new vent, as if the tree itself drew a deep breath. Fresh air flooded the hollow, sharp and sweet.
The tree breathes again. It was built for this. 2 flues, one for drawing, one for safety.
I am sorry. I almost killed you all.
Killed us? Number. The tree saved us. Papa, you were more right than I knew.
She's breathing easier now, thank God.
Papa always said these giants were houses God already built. I thought it a joke, but the flues, the insulation, it's like it was waiting.
What do you mean, waiting?
I don't fully know yet. Just a feeling that there's more to it than shelter.
The storm still howled, but inside the glowing heartwood, a question had taken root, one John couldn't yet put into words.
The settlement is half buried. Cabins collapsed. The cold is killing those still trapped.
What about Eli Stern? Did he make it?
Pinned under a beam. He'll freeze before the storm breaks if no one helps.
Emma's cough worsened into a wet, tearing bark that cut through the men's talk like a knife.
John, you can't go out there. You'll die in the white, and then what of us?
If I stay, Emma suffers. If I go, I might not come back. Either way, someone loses.
My pack's near the old trapper's trail. I'd go myself, but I can barely stand.
Please, John. Emma needs you here more than those who mocked us ever will.
He stared at the bark door, the storm outside a wall of death. But inside, Emma's breathing was shallow and wet. The decision hung in the air, and the fire crackled its own small truth, waiting for a man to choose.
I have to try, Martha. It's not for Eli, it's for Emma. That pack has medicine, and she's fading.
Then promise me you'll keep the flue clear. A small fire, John. Not a stick more.
He showed her how to watch the smoke, how to clear the second hole if the first clogged. His hands were steady, but his jaw was stone.
Papa, I need your joke now more than ever. Help me bring it back to them.
Papa, bring back the joke. The one about houses God already built.
I will, little one. I'll bring it back with the medicine. You just hold on.
He kissed her brow, then turned to the bark door. The hat went on his head like a shield. The wind screamed as he pulled the door open. Snow slashed inward, but he stepped out without faltering. Martha slid the bar back into place. The hollow, still warm, now held a different kind of quiet, awaiting. Outside, the tree glowed amber in the whiteout, a lighthouse where no lighthouse should be. John walked into the teeth of the storm, and the light faded behind him. He bent into the wind, snowshoe sinking deep. The forest was a blur of white, but his father's lessons held firm.
Follow the stream bed. Look for leaning trees. Papa taught me that.
He found the frozen creek buried under the drift and followed its hidden curve. The wind shifted, and the world became directionless. The settlement rose from the blizzard like a corpse. Cabins crushed under snow, no smoke, no sound, only the wind's howl. He shouted for survivors, but the gale swallowed his voice. Then his foot struck something hard beneath the drift, a human hand.
Eli, can you hear me?
The hand twitched, a weak groan escaped the snow, and John felt the faint, stubborn pulse of life.
Tree, man, you came.
Don't talk. Save your strength. I'm getting you out.
He dug with bare hands, the snow reddening his skin raw. The old miner emerged, half frozen but still drawing breath. Eli coughed, spitting ice, and his first lucid words were a sneer. Still, live in. A tree.
Save your breath, Eli. You'll need it.
He turned his back on the old miner and started tearing planks from a collapsed cabin. We need walls, he said to no one. He stacked the wood against a standing wall, using the curve of a fallen roof as a windbreak, then packed the seams with snow and mud. A child's whimper cut through the wind. John found her huddled behind a shattered door and guided her into the shelter. One by one, survivors crawled from the wreckage, a woman clutching a baby, an old man shivering in the wool coat.
Pack every crack, no matter how small. A single draft will steal your heat faster than the cold outside.
They worked in silence, stuffing moss and rags into the seams. When the fire caught, the smoke rose and slipped out a gap high in the roof. Eli sat propped against the wall, his eyes following John. The sneer had faded, replaced by something harder to read. The storm screamed outside, but the little shelter held. John's tree-born knowledge had become a lifeline in the frozen ruin. At first light, John pulled on his frozen gloves. The survivors watched him wordlessly as he ducked out of the shelter. He traced the trapper's trail through the deep snow until a flash of canvas caught his eye. Arnold's pack, wedged in a drift, back in the shelter. He knelt beside the coughing child and tipped a few drops of medicine between her cracked lips.
You are leaving.
My daughter needs her grandfather's joke. I promised to bring it back.
Eli said nothing, but the hard lines of his face softened. He stepped aside, clearing the path to the door. John lashed the pack to his shoulder. The medicine felt heavier than any log he'd ever carried. He paused at the shelter's entrance, then looked back at the huddled survivors. Their eyes held a quiet debt. Eli nodded once, a silent gift of respect. Then John stepped into the white, the tree's lesson pulling him home. The storm had weakened, but the cold still bit. Somewhere beyond the drifts, a little girl waited for a joke and a cure. He walked until his legs burned. Then, through the thinning snow, a familiar amber star appeared, the tree glowing against the dark. Gator's bark echoed from inside. The bark door swung open, and Martha stood frozen in the entrance, her hands flying to her mouth.
John, oh God, you are back. Emma, your father's home.
Emma threw herself against him, her cough a faint rasp. John knelt and pulled the medicine from his pack with trembling hands.
Here, little one. This will help. And I brought something else. Your grandfather's joke.
You made it. And the settlement. Did you find them?
They're alive. Eli's alive. I built them a shelter like this one, sealed every seam.
Later, when Emma slept and the fire fell low, John stared up through the knothole at the stars. His voice was distant.
Papa's joke. It's not just about the tree. It's about something else. Something I still can't name.
The hearth crackled. Martha rested her head on his shoulder. The tree stood silent, holding its secret still.
Papa, tell me the joke now. The medicine made my chest feel lighter.
John settled beside her and took her small hand. His voice carried the weight of memory.
Grandfather said, Giants like this are houses God already built. We just have to be brave enough to open the door.
Did you open the door, Papa?
The question struck John like a draft through a forgotten seam. His thoughts flew to Eli's silent nod.
I opened the bark door. But maybe there's another door I kept barred.
What door, John?
The one between me and those who mocked us. I helped them, but I didn't forgive them. Papa's joke means more than shelter. It means welcome, not just to the tree, but to my heart.
He stared at the bark door, but this time he wasn't looking at wood. The true test hadn't yet come. The days grew longer, and the snowpack crusted. Spring was still far, but the death grip of winter had loosened a fraction.
I owe you everything. I'll make sure the territory knows what this tree did.
Tell them a house is only as strong as it seems, and that a man's heart is no different.
Arnold nodded and walked away, a lone figure against the softening white. John watched until he vanished. Inside, Emma was her old self, carving a wooden spoon for her father. The cough had nearly faded.
How about a walk to the settlement? I want to see if the shelter's held.
Will they still call us tree people?
Maybe not, but it doesn't matter. We'll open our door to them, like Grandpa said.
He bundled her in a thick wool coat and strapped on his snowshoes. Martha kissed them both. Her eyes brave, hand in hand, they stepped into the softening world, the trees light warm behind them. A new kind of walk. The settlement emerged from the snow not as a wreck, but a hive of sawing and hammering. New cabins, sealed tight, sent thin plumes of smoke into the pale sky. Eli stood on a half-finished roof, hammer in hand. When he saw John, he froze, then he climbed down, slowly, and the hammering stopped. The crowd parted. Eli walked forward, his boots crunching on the half-melted snow. His face was unreadable, but his shoulders were not proud.
You showed us what a real house is. Not just wood and nails, a place where the cold can't reach the heart.
A murmur rippled through the onlookers. Eli's voice was rough but steady, stripped of mockery.
I mocked you, John Reeves. I was wrong. The tree didn't just hold, it taught us how to hold together.
John held his gaze, then slowly extended his hand. Eli took it, and the crowd breathed again. Emma tugged his sleeve. "Papa, why aren't you saying anything?" Her voice was small but clear in the hush.
Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. The lesson's been heard.
Eli nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. The settlement, once a place of scorn, now breathed a new respect. By the time the snow melted into mud, the settlement gathered for a simple ceremony under a spring sun. Eli stood before the crowd, his miner's hat in his hands, and looked straight at the Reeves family.
John's father once said that giant trees are God's houses already built. I laughed at that. But I was the fool. It took John Reeves to show us that the door must open both ways, to let the cold in or to let a neighbor out.
John felt the words lodge deep, a key turning in a lock he didn't know he still carried.
God built the tree, but John built the welcome. That's the real house.
He pressed his father's hat against his chest and whispered the joke, finally whole.
Houses God already built. We just have to open the door. I understand now, Papa. The door's the heart.
Emma slipped her hand into his. "You are crying, Papa."
Happy tears, little one. I finally got the joke.
That evening, back in the hollow tree, the firelight danced on curved walls. Emma sat close, her eyes on the worn hat in her father's hands.
My father was a timberman, but he never saw a tree as just lumber. He saw them as living cathedrals. He'd rest his hand on a trunk and say, "John, this giant knows secrets we've forgotten." I thought he was just a dreamer who told jokes. But every word was a seed planted for this winter.
Did you believe him when you were little?
Not then. I was too busy clearing stumps to listen. Now I hear him in every creak of this wood.
He lifted the hat from his lap and held it toward Emma. The brim was frayed, but it carried a mountain of love.
This joke belongs to you now. Emma, wear it. And remember, a house is just a house until you open the door.
Emma placed the hat on her head. It slipped over her eyes, but she smiled, and Martha laughed softly. John felt Martha's hand slip into his. The tree's amber glow wrapped them like a promise kept. Summer came, and the valley turned golden green. The tree stood as a landmark of welcome, its bark door always ajar.
Thought you might like some cider, John. The orchards are heavy this year. Your father was a prophet, John. He saw something in these woods we were too blind to notice.
He just knew how to listen to the forest. I wish I'd learned sooner.
I was wrong to mock, John. Truly. You and your tree saved us all.
Water under the bridge, Eli. The tree taught us both.
They watched Emma chase Gator through the tall grass, her laughter as bright as the summer sky.
Papa, look! Gator caught a butterfly.
That girl's got her grandfather's spark. You can see it plain as day.
And there, in the shadow of the great fallen tree, two old adversaries shared a quiet drink as the sun dipped low. Neighbors at last. Autumn's first chill swept down the valley. John knelt beside the great fallen trunk, a young sapling in his hands. Emma dug a small hole with a wooden trowel. For the new tree, she said, so it knows it's welcome.
That's right, little one. Just like your grandfather welcomed the giants.
When I grow up, I want to live in a treehouse, with a knothole for the smoke and a door for friends.
Then you'll know the joke, Emma. You really will.
Gator barked and wagged his tail as if approving the new addition. The sapling stood barely knee-high, but its roots were deep. That evening, the tree glowed as it always did, but now a smaller promise stood beside it, a new life in the shadow of the giant. Inside, the family sat around the fire, the old hat resting on a peg, and the joke, now fully told, wrapped them in a warmth no winter could steal. The valley would never mock again. The tree people had become its heartbeat, and the lesson lived on, long after the snow melted. For in the end, the dearest houses are those we dare to open, and the truest joke is the one we finally understand. And so the tale of the tree people faded, but never fully left. It became a story told beside winter fires. In time, men said of a welcoming house, it's an open door. Just like old John Reeves, and of a good lesson, they'd say, that's a treehouse joke. Takes a winter to understand. The worn hat still hung on its peg, but now it was a treasure, a reminder that God builds the house, but men must open the door. The giant fallen tree never rotted. It stood season after season, its heartwood still sounding the ancient echo of welcome. And on cold nights when the wind howled, the valley remembered the family who lived inside a fallen giant and proved that the truest shelter is a heart wide open for them. The deadliest winter had not been a curse. It had been the teacher that turned a joke into a way of life. So the tree people became not a mockery, but a measure, a standing proof that the best houses are those we dare to enter. And the joke, it was never just a joke. It was a truth waiting for a storm to be believed. Fade to black